Yes, it really is me. I've just shaved off the beard. And welcome back to another episode of Look Out and Shout. And after being long messed around by delivery companies today, we are finally reviewing TransArt's BWM-13 Vice Poison Battler, their version of a masterpiece scale Quickstrike from Beast Wars. Now, if anyone is not familiar, Quickstrike was a Fusor. Now, when the Fusors came into it, this was a weird amalgamation of two beast forms that kind of played into characteristics. So we had a scorpion crossed with a cobra python of snake of some description. So where the body is largely in beast mode as a scorpion, it does indeed have the tail of a cobra python snake of some description. And yeah, small box, nice art on it. Tarantulas, interestingly, on one side, their previous release, along with Megatron. Now, if you remember from my review of Megatron, the box did have that wonderful silhouette from the fabled episode at the start of the second season where all of the Transmetals and Fusors came into it. So that was a nice skyline, which they're kind of recreating on the rest of their boxes. And inside the box is very bare. Apart from the figure itself, it comes with the collector's card and QR codes to the instructions. I haven't tried these out yet, so I don't know if the links actually work. And that's about it. Let's have a look at the bot itself, shall we? And there he is in his robot mode. And that is a somewhat small looking Quickstrike. It is noticeable when you put it out of the box. However nice that green, that turquoise green looks, and however much expression is in the snake head, it does come across as a bit dainty for a masterpiece scale, particularly with some of the other TransArt figures that we've had. It's not to say it's badly done. I have just taken it out of the box. The instructions, of course, will be on the scan QR code, but I've wondered this when I saw it in the production shots, that it looked a little bit uninspiring. And I think, given the fact they've released Black Arachnia, Tarantulas, this was kind of always going to be the next one to do, because it was going to be one of the easier ones for them to do. It wasn't a complicated one. In as much as it's not Rampage, it's not exactly Depth Charge, it's certainly not an Inferno, something that's going to be a trick to transform. This is an arachnid like any other. It's not to say it's bad, it's just first impressions out of the box, not amazing, not wowed, certainly not like I was with Tarantulas. But let's get in for a closer look. The green really is gorgeous. That chrome is gorgeous. I think what bothers me is that I felt with the product shots as well, the orange claws, whilst it might be too inaccurate, just look a little bit flat. And the head on the arm, very much full of expression, very lovely paint to it. Maybe not the best articulation. It reminds me of Cheetor's tail, in as much as it's that bendy copper wire to it, and it will hold a pose, but it doesn't exactly feel massively secure and stable. I do like the fanged expression, I like the red eye, I like the hints of green and the scaled look to it, but you get the impression that's the only selling point of this figure. Obviously he has the beast mode head on the bottom. Now, one thing I was mindful of, whereas on the original toy, the legs and the feet were translucent, and I felt that added a bit of charm to the original toy. These are just solid yellow or a gold colour. And as nice as it looks, it's just that. And I think that's the thing with this figure. You notice the green pops lovely, but the rest of it is just solid fill, and it just comes across a little bit dead or uninspiring. It's not bad, but you're not wowed like you are with some others. The head sculpt is nice enough, very toon accurate. It was a funny head sculpt from the cartoon. Articulation wise, you can look up a bit, down not very much, side to side. Arm rotation, I don't get the impression that there's ratchets at all in this figure. It all feels friction. Bend at the knee, not much of an ankle rotation at all. Bit of hip rotation, waist rotation, which is good. and some articulation on the snake arm. It just doesn't scream masterpiece grade to me, not like some others. No heavy ratchets, no real die cast, maybe other than the chrome. It's not the heaviest. It just feels that tad lackluster. But okay, the character might not demand it, but when you consider some of the beautiful work we've been getting from TransArt recently, this doesn't necessarily fall into that bracket. And accessory wise, he doesn't come with anything either. I would have thought he doesn't exactly scream like he needs accessories, but there's nothing else that comes in the box. I would have thought maybe some blast effects for the mouthpiece maybe, but no, he doesn't come with anything. So it's a bit, again, empty. He just comes with his collector's card and the instructions, but other than that, it is the figure in and of itself. Okay, on to some comparisons. Here he is alongside TransArt's Transmetal Tarantulas, what I think is their best figure release so far. That's arguably up for debate, but that's how they look together. The sizing is probably right. Maybe Tarantulas could be a shade bigger, but Quickstrike was never going to be bigger than him, so that's how they scale together. Transmetal 2 Cheetor. Again, this is quite a scale difference, but then this Cheetor was bigger. This is, of course, TransArt's range as well, and you do see similarities in Cheetor's tail and Quickstrike's arm. Legacy Thundertron from the Prime universe, so not Beast Wars, but you get an idea of scale in the fact that he's smaller than a Chug Voyager class figure, and that's why I wonder maybe this figure is just a tad too small. And Masterpiece MP48 Plus Dark Amber, a Nemesis colouring of Lio Prime or Lio Convoy. Again, different universes, I suppose. It's still Beast Wars, different part of Beast Wars that these two did not share. But that's how they look together. And here he is with his counterpart from back in the day. So, yeah, I can guess you say he's small, but he's not as small as that. But do you see what I mean around the translucent effect versus the solid effect? That kind of has a bit more to it. I just feel that the gap of 25 odd years hasn't changed an awful lot. I still feel this figure has a bit of character to it that the new figure does not absolutely cover in leaps and bounds. Okay, let's get this Tin Horde transformed up, shall we? And here he is in his beast mode. And yep, it transforms just like the original toy did, which is not surprising. There's a couple of fiddly bits which I think I've got right, which involve the shoulder pads around the abdomen of the figure. You want to kind of get some of the pieces out to form the back half of the figure. It certainly has more character in this mode. This is where the head sculpt for the beast mode and the snake head as well really come to life. I do think the limited articulation on the tail is a bit of a problem. I think it just feels like bending copper wire, much like Cheetor's tail that they released, the Transmetal 2 Cheetor, and it's struggling to get into some good positions or at least to hold them. I don't love the legs either. They are not so much fixed on hinges. You can't pose them very well. Again, they're just bendy plastic. You can bend them into positions, but they're not like, say, Tarantulas. The claws are good. The scorpion claws are fine. The head sculpt is very nice. The colour pops possibly a bit more in this mode. It does have a lot of character to it. Again, I'm just not wowed by it like I wasn't for bot mode. It's better, and if it came in this mode out of the box, maybe I would be more wowed than I originally am. But that's how it looks. It is a good scale as well as it opens out, as it transforms like the original toy did. It is now of a bigger proportion than, say, the bot mode is. It does look good. It is still not the best one they've done, but I like it nevertheless. Let's get in for a closer look. Now, I will say just at this point, he does kind of sit on his base of his legs. So you have to get that flush, that screw in the middle. And if you don't, then he will have a tendency to lean a little bit. So if that's off center, then he will be a little bit wonky. This is something to bear in mind. There's his head underneath. Hello. Lovely detail on that face. The color does pop a bit more here, but it is nothing you haven't particularly seen in the bot mode. These shoulder bits, I think I've got them right. They're on some very fixed arms. I think that's correct. They want to get these two in particular. They want to get in the way coming out of transformation. So you want to clear those first, because this is his back, this is his chest. You want to push these through first before opening it up. It's just something that I've learned. But articulation wise, probably what you'd expect. You get some arm movement, claw movement, head movement up and down. But as I say, the legs, they're just kind of flexible plastic. There's no hinges here. And whilst they will move into position and bend a little bit, I would have preferred it if they were on individual points of articulation. Same with the head sculpt as well. You can bend it to your will, but not fabulously. But I do like the fanged expression. Okay, on to some comparisons. Here he is alongside TransArt's version of a Transmetal Rat Trap. The tail, again, does have that same problem. It's not individually articulated, it's on that bendy wire. But I like how these two scale together. I like that kind of feralness that these two bring through. So yeah, that's a nice comparison. Here he is alongside TransArt's Transmetal Optimus Primal. I've got him in surfing gorilla mode at the moment rather than walking gorilla. You see a size difference here. That gorilla is fairly big, maybe not the biggest, but you put these two together, you really do see the size difference. That's probably about right for scale though in comparison with the show. And here he is alongside his sugar bot. This is the Takara Beast Wars Black Arachnia. This is a nightmare to pose, but at least the legs are articulated. This is a nightmare to pose, but at least the legs are articulated to get into a pose. Seeing the two together, the scale is right. This is not my favourite beast mode of Black Arachnia, but this is the one she spent most of her cartoon in. So putting these two together, that's probably about right for scale. And to come back a bit for this one, here he is alongside TransArt's version of a Transmetal Megatron. Much, much bigger. He's in danger of squashing him, but that is a nice comparison. That is a lovely Megatron figure. So is it any wonder that these two do look good together? And here he is alongside the original toy. Now, one thing I will say is getting this into beast mode again, there are a couple of things that this does do better. That has individually articulated joints on the neck to get better poses, whereas that doesn't. And also, when you plug in the legs, there's a peg on the underside that the legs plug into underside the shell. Just under where you can see my thumb, it plugs in. So you've got no danger of this moving, which I do not believe that does. And again, the articulation of the neck, you can see the individual joints. It just holds the pose better. Now, no doubt this is modernised and the paint is gorgeous. But when you see some of the characteristics of the original figure that do not transcribe to the newer figure, well, it does make you wonder, has it advanced all that much? So what my final views on Vice Poison? I will say this, I have since worked out from using the back of the instructions that shows an illustration, you can plug in the legs to the base of the figure as you could do with the original toy. It's not as easy, or certainly not as apparent as the original release was. You have to put the hinge of the robotic arm, the legs, into a bit of a bent position to do it, and then push hard into a peg. Once it's in there, it's fine. I'm still not wowed by it. I like this mode. This is probably the mode I'll keep it in. It doesn't floor me like the other TransArt figures do. It's just a bit, that's nice. Okay, what's next? Whereas some of the others, I'm still in awe of them now. I love their Tarantulas. I like their Optimus Prime, with their Rat Trap's brilliant. The Megatron is fantastic. I just feel this is a little bit, it's good. And that's it. It's good. I hate to use this, it sounds a little bit derogatory. It's a solid 7 out of 10. And it sounds like a bit of a backhanded compliment. This is where I wonder if I'm reading too much into this. I wonder if they're banking on their paint job to sell the figure. Because there's no doubt that this looks fantastic. There's no doubt that the colour is good, the paint's good, the chrome is gorgeous. But the fact it doesn't come with any accessories, I've spoken a lot about accessories recently. Does he need accessories? I don't know. It doesn't come with any flair, anything extra. There's a couple of bits like around the legs. I wish these were on articulated points. It's just kind of, here it is. Doesn't it look nice? And I'm like, yes, it does. What else you got? What's its other selling point? I wish the tail was a bit more articulate for what is Quickstrike's main gimmick. This arm, this snapping arm. It's got a lot of expression to it, but other than a few bends, maybe, and okay, it's very similar to Cheetah, it's very similar to Rat Trap as well, so it's doing what TransArt do. It's kind of got no final special move, if you know what I mean. It's got nothing that says, this is this toy's main gimmick. there's limited articulation on the beast mode, but then again, beast modes generally are. It's a very fair price point for what you're getting. You're not paying half the world on this, and you don't generally on TransArt figures. I just think I've been so impressed with some others, it lulls you into a false sense of security. The Trans Metal Tarantulas was fantastic. Most of their figures have been very, very good, and I've said many times they've really gone up in their stock in my mind for what they're delivering. But this kind of brings it down a bit, because it's just a bit... You've just knocked this figure out, haven't you, just to get through it. I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but it doesn't wow me like the other ones do. I don't mind so much that it is just the same transformation as the original toy, but it's just kind of no frills, no excitement. However nice it looks, and I'm probably going to see this set through for all the TransArt now, for all of the Transmetals, for all the Fusors, for all of the Beast Wars. But it's just a bit, yeah, you've done the character. Can't say you haven't. It just doesn't wow me like some of its others, and I think that's a real shame. I think TransArt have done a lot, and I'm surprised they tackled this one. I'm surprised we haven't seen any more of Silverbolt, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more of their Dinobot 2, or even teasers of Rampage or Depth Charge. But hey, we've got it. It looks good from a paint job perspective. It will scale well with the others if that's what you're collecting. It's just not as fabulous for me as I'd expect it to be. And therefore my verdict is 3 Rodimus Star Badges. It's good in as much as its presentation, and it scales nicely with the other releases. But yeah, that's a little bit underwhelming, I suppose. Maybe I'm being a little bit unkind. I just feel that TransArt have done so well with their previous releases. This feels a bit like Cheetor to me. The Cheetor, the Transmetal 2 Cheetor, the Transmetal 2 Cheetor just didn't wow me, and I felt that other releases kind of did. For this to be their latest release, as I've said, you're only as good as your last figure, and that doesn't feel like a home run to me. And there we go, that is my review of TransArt's BWM Vice Poison, their version of a Fusor Transmetal Quickstrike. I'll put some photos up at the end. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you on the next one.